Sly Cooper is a video game series first developed by Sucker Punch, with the first game coming out in 2002. After the release of this bad boy, we got a sequel in 2004 and another sequel in 2005. And I don't have the case for this one because my game broke. Rip me. And rip this. And then we waited for a fourth installment. We waited, and we waited, and we waited 7 years. Finally, in 2012, the year the world was supposed to end, if you remember that, we finally got the news that a new game was in the making. Sucker Punch, however, had moved on to the Infamous series at this point, but luckily they had passed the torch over to a little game company called Sensitive Games. Luckily, Sensitive Games were already a bit familiar with the series, as they were the ones who had released the Sly Cooper Collection, which was a remaster of the first 3 games released to PS3 and PS Vita. But who the fuck owns a PS Vita? Also, a quick interesting note. In the first 3 games for the PS2, the game manuals were actually supposed to look like the Thieves raccoonus, and then they would gradually age over time. Except, of course, that I never personally had that, because all of my games are European releases, and apparently they didn't think that the European releases beyond the first game should have that fun little quirk, because what was I thinking? Europe never gets to have any fun. All the Europeans versions look like this, and there's mine. It's actually in Danish. It's only in Danish, and that's very neat, because we never get anything for ourselves. And then my version of the third game is this beautiful amalgamation of Danish, Norwegian, Swedish, and Finnish, because those languages are the same, totally, right? And in my version, the manual looks like this, which is neat. It shows the canon heights of the characters, so I guess that's fun and nice and all. No Thieves raccoonus, no. It's also a little broken, but that's another thing. Also, my favorite thing in the world is these little speech bubbles on the back that gives like small teasers for the game, like fantastic mini games and just like fun little quirky things like that. Except, of course, that this giant speech bubble, where again it's because it's 4 different languages mixed together, but in the Danish one with a little Danish flag, that's right there something went wrong apparently in making this, so the entire thing here, which was supposed to be in Danish, is actually in French. And I don't know how to tell you this, but Danish and French do not look alike in any way at all. So my poor 8-year-old brain was so I'm still confused. I still can't read it. I can read the Norwegian part and the Swedish part, kinda. I can't read it because it's French. And I don't know why you can make that mistake, and I just thought that was very funny. But after that little detour, we can finally move on back to the 4th game, and why I want to throw it in a burning dumpster. I mean, to be completely fair, I may also have had some high expectations, because I'm very nostalgic towards the other games, and like, in my opinion, the second and the third games are like, I mean, the first one is okay, but I can also forgive it, because again, it was the first game. They had to set everything up, and then the second and the third game just kind of nailed everything else, the characters and the stories and things I care a lot about. You will hear me ramble about that, but I care a lot about characters, and I care a lot about story. Gameplay is fine for me. Of course, the gameplay sucks, you can't play the game, it makes sense. But I also admit that these are children's games, they're not kind of like the children's games. So it's fair for me that the gameplay is not like the most advanced or hardest thing in the world, and I don't expect that. I don't need that in my life. I need characters and stories and fun times, and you know what? I get None of that in the fourth game. So for this game, which by the way also have the amalgamation of Danish, Norwegian, Swedish, and Finnish on the backside. That's just fun times for the whole family. I still don't speak any of those languages besides Danish. Whatever. This game focuses on time travel, and everyone were losing their minds when this first came out, because we know what was going to happen with the time travel. We've known about Sly's family line for the entire 3 other games. I'm not gonna talk a lot about the other games. I kinda expect that you know at least a bit of the story before watching this video. You don't have to know this one, but I guess it would kind of be a good idea to know these other ones before going into a talk about an analysis about this one. And the time travel concept was really interesting because we know that Sly has this long line of ancestors who were also thieves, and we've gotten to know them a little bit more in the third game with going into the Cooper Vault and all of that. So everyone was like, oh my god, we're gonna meet the ancestors. And spoiler alert, we are gonna meet the ancestors, and that's such a great concept that is amazing on paper. On paper, that's amazing. Apparently, you can even make a concept as that not really work. So what is this game actually about? Well, we're moving on from the third game, with Sly being with Carmelita, faking his amnesia, and the gang just generally being split up. Bentley is working together with Penelope, and they are working on a time machine, something that Bentley actually kind of hinted at in the ending of the third game.
So while this might be the end of our adventures together, it could be the start of something even bigger. Time will tell. Literally. 'Cause I'm building a time machine to find out.
At some point, however, he discovers that the pages in the Thieves Raccooners are suddenly disappearing, however, and he's like, I gotta kinda warn Sly about this. We kinda gotta do something about this. So they get the gang back together, and with the help of Bentley's time machine that he's just finished, they put it on the van and they go back in time to figure out what the hell is happening. And that's basically like the story in a nutshell. Okay, so far so good, right? We're time traveling, it's funny, everything is peachy. We're 5 minutes, we're about 5-10 minutes into this game, and I have hope in my heart. I will lose this hope as we go on. The hub worlds looks pretty much as they did in the second and the third game, so just slightly bigger. At least I feel like they're slightly bigger. And that's mostly because I cannot find my way, especially in the first level. I cannot, for the life of me, find my way around that level. Maybe because everything looks alike. They've added a little map in this game down the corner where you can always see where you are and where your objective are. And again, I'm not gonna be very positive in this video, but I'll be positive where I need to be positive. That map saves my ass every time I play this game because I will get lost. There's a reason I don't play big open world games. I get lost. I am terrible at directions in real life, and apparently I'm also terrible at direction in video games. The map is cool. 2 points for that, games. You have 2 points. We get into my favorite section now. We're gonna talk about the characters. That's the only reason I'm making this entire thing. Okay, the game is also kind of dumb in itself, but the characters are important for me. We start at the beginning. The 3 members of the Cooper gang. Sly is pretty much himself, as well as Bentley. I don't feel like they have gotten a lot different. Bentley has become a bit more a jokester. I say that very lightly because none of his jokes are funny. They're actually very cringeworthy, and I feel like I enjoyed him a bit more when he was a bit more serious. Bentley, by the by, is my favorite character, so he means a lot to me. But fortunately, they didn't destroy my boy too much. Then we have Murray. The muscles of the group as well as the heart. Murray, what did they do to you? They murdered him. They massacred my boy. Okay, no, but seriously, Murray is like a shell of who he used to be. I mean, I would even go as far as to say that he has returned to his Sly 1 self. And for those of you who have played that game, you know that is bad news. For those of you who don't know, here's a summary. In Sly 1, Murray was a joke. His entire character was that he was fat, he was a sweetheart, and knew how to drive a van. That was all, that was it. And in this game, Murray focuses on food a lot.
A real fighter knows when to strike and when to back off. Like whether or not to have one more pepperoni and chocolate chip burrito.
As in a lot.
Wow, he's right there! This is gonna be easier than taking pizza from a baby.
I think you mean candy, buddy?
Oh yeah, I love candy!
As in, okay, listen, I know he also ate in the other games, but I don't think it was a definite personality trait. There is a point in this game where Murray loses a bit of faith in himself, which, first of all, is not exactly an original character arc because we've already had that before in the previous games, but whatever, Murray loses a bit of faith in himself, and the only way that the game knows how to show this is to make it so that Murray is no longer hungry.
Why don't you come back to the hideout and have a snack?
I'm not hungry. Whoa! So this is what it feels like.
Because I guess the fat character always have to be hungry or else something is wrong. I mean, they seriously treat it, they treat it as we are supposed to be like, oh my god, something is wrong. And then later when his arc is resolved, they put a little bow on it by making him say that now he's hungry again. Because then we know that everything is back to normal. They also keep referring to his weight. Again, fat characters, fat, haha, funny. I just don't think so. I mean, and here's the thing, right? Here's the thing, right? Most of it aren't even fat. It's muscles. Murray is so fucking strong. Murray, in the third game, is able to drag a frozen van throughout an entire city. A frozen van, he drags it in a rope over his shoulder. That is how strong the guy is. The guy can lift literally everything he wants to. I'm just so tired of this game treating Murray like he is some lazy ass who only cares about food just because he has a bigger body than the other characters. I mean, even his animation when playing the game suffers from this. Like, he somehow feels heavier to run around with than he has ever done before in the previous games. And you know what that does to your game? That does it so that Murray is not at all enjoyable to play with. Like, the gameplay suffers from the fact that they have to make it like, oh, the fat character has to run funny because he's fat. And really, just to add insult to injury, every single time, and I really mean it, I mean every single time that you choose to play as Murray, there's this little broken up animation that plays just after you've exited the hideout. The animation is of Murray looking down at some broccoli in disgust and then throwing it over his shoulder. And I mean, haha, the fat guy doesn't like vegetables. I'm sorry I'm not laughing when the joke is literally forced in my face every single time I play as him in the game. I am so tired. And then we have Carmelita. Another character who has been with us since the beginning of the series, even though she's not actually a part of the Cooper gang. Usually she actually tries to like put them in jail. Armed with her trusted shock pistol, Carmelita is known as a serious, badass, hardworking police inspector. But of course she's also so much more than that. Like, she has helped the gang multiple times throughout the games, and she is of course the love interest to our little raccoon. Carmelita's interesting in these games because she actually becomes sort of a temporary member of the gang as she becomes stuck back in time as well, so she has to work together with them. But like, she becomes playable in a way that you can actually pick her from the safe house and explore the world with her. Sly of course now has an actual, somewhat real relationship with her for the first time, except of course that the relationship is actually based on deceit and lies, and it's probably not the most healthy relationship of all because of the whole amnesia thing and the lies from both of them. Actually, they both lied, but besides that, I just don't understand why they had to make her more sexy. Oh, I mean, a big part of her character is the fact that she is super serious about her job. She runs around the miniskirt, for Christ's sake. Can you imagine an actual police officer who is serious about her job who has to chase down criminals in a tight miniskirt? I just feel like it's all very unnecessary because it's a children's game. This one says 3+. I mean, I know I'm a grown-ass adult who are playing these games, and there are probably other grown-ass adults who are playing these games, but they will find their porn without the game having to make it for them. They will find it themselves. The game sexualizes her, and I don't understand why the game sexualizes her. I mean, there's that... Don't get me started on that one dance sequence in the 5th level, because I almost broke my controller. I mean, you get money when she shakes her ass. I don't even think I would have this entire paragraph if it wasn't for that. I need to lay down. I need a drink, or a nap, or both. Let's talk about the ancestors. The ancestors, the creme de la creme of this game. Being able to meet the ancestors that we've only heard tales about before. It was very exciting, really. It was very, very exciting. And they actually kind of did something good about this. This is, like, I'm a fair person. I believe I'm a fair person. I give credit where credit is due. And the ancestors, they're kind of nice. They're kind of nice. I mean, some of them, like Ryuichi and Tennessee, are kind of predictable in terms of their personality. Like, they're exactly what you would think about if you thought, oh, a ninja from Fruit of Japan, or oh, a cowboy. But we're also giving a little bit of surprises, and I want to, and I'm building up here. I'm building up all of my energy, and that's because I want to talk about Sir Gallop. I just want... This entire setup is just me wanting to talk about Sir Gallop. I love Sir Gallop with my entire being. He is an absolute sweetheart. And again, credit where credit is due. There were no one, I think, who actually wanted to see Sir Gallop, because he wasn't one of the characters who had appeared multiple times, you know, throughout the games when we get tidbits of Sly's backstory. And he was one of the first people that we meet in the vault. He didn't have a lot of information. I'm pretty sure it only said something about him founding the round. No, it was the. I'm pretty sure it only said something about him like being the founder of the Knights of the Round Table or something like that. It wasn't very interesting. We didn't have much to go on. But Sensor Game actually managed to take this blank slate of a character and turn him special. He is bombastic, he is optimistic, he is such a dumbass, and I adore him. I adore him. I don't enjoy the 4th level very much for reasons that I will come into later in this video, but Sir Gallop makes it all at least a little bit more worthwhile. He takes some of my misery and then he wraps me in a blanket. It's a very it's not a very thick blanket, you know. You can still feel the cold, but you still feel a little warm, a little fuzzy. You feel a little like, ooh, I am loved, just a little bit. That's how I feel about Sir Gallop. He's just a delight. He's an actual delight. And most of the other ancestors are a delight as well. Tennessee definitely is a delight. He maybe have a predictable personality, but he's still a delight. There's also Alcopar, who they for some reason decided to age up. I guess I can understand the variety for variety's sake, for not getting exactly who we had seen in the vault, which I guess was okay. The only thing that became a bit of a downer was that he didn't want to be in the game and I didn't want to play the game, so we kind of had this feeling of, yeah, we don't want to do this right now. I don't know if that's a good thing, that you can like relate to the character who just want to go home and nap. And I was home, I was sitting on my couch, I wanted to turn off my PlayStation and nap. But you know what? None of us gets what we want these days. I actually like the ancestors. And the keen eye will have noticed that there is one ancestor I have not touched upon yet, and that is because, oh my god, I have a lot to say, and by a lot, I mean, I hate Bob. Bob. I mean, it's bad enough that they placed him in an ice level, which that is a personal opinion, but this is my video. A personal opinion, I cannot stand ice levels. They're boring, they look the same, everything is white. My brain gets bored and ice physics sucks. That is just a few of my complaints. Then they made Bob. For those of you who have not played the game, and who are for some reason still watching this video, written with spoilers, everything is a spoiler in this video, but who are still watching this video thinking, maybe I should play this game, who are thinking, hey Christy, who the fuck is Bob? Bob is the very first Cooper. Bob is a caveman from the Ice Age who steals eggs, and that's it. That's his personality. He's a caveman. He's kinda naive. He's very strong. He's very dumb. 'Cause he's a caveman. I don't know what to tell you. Why does Bob exist? See, that's the question I'm asking myself all the time. And I have a theory about this. I have a very cynical little theory about this, okay? I have a little theory that Sensitive Games, they have been working with this franchise before. They were like, hey, yeah, we know a bit about this. Do you know what could be fun? If we put our greasy little fingers all over the Sly Cooper timeline, so that you never would be able to look up the Sly Cooper timeline and not be able to see, and here's the addition of Sensitive Games. I don't know if that's right. I have absolutely no proof, but I just cannot in my wildest fantasies imagine why you would make a new character that no one has asked for. We have a whole fan base who are waiting on your game, who got told, hey, this game is about the ancestors. The entire fan base is like, oh my god, I hope we get to see this and this character, because we know a bit about these characters. We've seen them all through the games, and especially in the third game, we're like, hey, we're going through the vault, and we get to hear a bit more about all these characters. We get to see a bit of their items. We get to see the parts of the vault that they have built, that they have made with their techniques. And we're so excited, and we're like, oh, I hope this character gets it. I hope this character gets it. So you have 5 levels. You have way more than 5 ancestors. You have a very good gallery of ancestors. And each and every one of them would be so interesting for people who've played the previous games to meet, because we have a connection. And then what do? You make a new character that nobody cares about. Sorry? You make a new character that nobody cares about, because nobody heard about before, because they haven't existed before now, and now the entire timeline is fucked up as well. We thought that it all started with Sleightagamon. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, probably not. It all started with Sleightagamon the First, who made the Thieves Raccoonus, and then Sleightagamon the Second, who built the vault. But you know what? No, now it goes all the way back to, I don't give a shit, 10,000 years BC or something, I think the game says. I don't know. And I am so mad. He just doesn't bring enough. I feel like he doesn't bring enough to justify his existence. I felt like, okay, I have played through the first 2 levels, and I was having quite a fun. First level was very slow, the second one was more interesting with the railroads and stuff, and I'm kind of like, oh my god, we're in an Ice Age world. Why are we in an Ice Age world? There are no characters from the Ice Age. And then to just discover you have been waiting for 5 years just to get slapped in the face. And I cannot justify these feelings more than I've already done. And I cannot bring up a lot of logical reasons why he shouldn't exist. I get, and I know a lot of people like him, think he's cute and whatnot, but moving on, because this is making me mad. But we don't go very far. We're still with the ancestors, because when you have an entire game built around time travel, you have an entire game built around time travel with multiple characters throughout different points in time. And also, funny enough, these characters have a lot of different skill sets. That's actually the entire reason why the Thieves Raccoonus exists, because they learn different skill sets, and then they write them down, and then they pass them on to the next generation. Why is it that we have this entire setup, and then they still don't get the continuity right? I'm gonna be a little nitpicky now, I don't know, but I feel like it's kind of important. Richie Cooper invented the spear jump. This has been said multiple times. It's been said in the Thieves Raccoonus. It has been said in the vault. You would think, since he invented a movement that the ancestors before him didn't know. Why is it then that when I play the 4th level, and I play with Sir Gallup, who was born 12 something, that he knows the spear jump that Ririchi, who was born in 16 something something, invented. You see, first I thought that Sensory Games had actually been smart about this. I thought I would go out with a character and then I just wouldn't be able to do the moves, you know, because they wouldn't have learned it, because that would have been smart. Like, you would go onto the level and then there would be different things in this hub world that Sly would be able to do that the ancestor wouldn't, because it would have been invented after their death. I thought that at first that would have been really cool. Of course that didn't happen. That's a pattern at this point. And then I thought, okay, Sunset Game has been very clever about it. They've been clever about it. They have done it so that you are not able to do moves that shouldn't have been invented. Like, at first, when I played the game, I thought that, okay, Sir Gallop, for example, is not able to do the spear jump because there are nowhere in the level that allows him to do the spear jump, so we don't mess with the continuity like that. Okay, so they have designed the levels with the continuity in mind. But then I was just so disappointed when I just figured out that nope, we're able to do that. He's just able to do that. We're not even at the worst part yet, my lovely little children. It's time for the villains. I am a big fan of villains. That sounded wrong. I enjoy villains in media, usually more than I enjoy watching the hero's journey. I enjoy watching the villains. Villains, their characterization means a lot to me. I know there are very many types of media who don't care a lot about them, but you know what? I don't care. I don't walk in those circles. I want characterization. And even though the Sly Cooper franchise is mainly for children, I feel like in the past they have had a lot of really, really good villains. Of course, the first game, but I can forgive it. They were starting up, okay? They were starting up, and then the second game, and they were like, poof. I mean, we got Dimitri from the second game. Do I need to say anymore? A Clockwork is a great villain because he's scary and he's kind of alienated, but he's still kind of there all the time. And I enjoyed Neela and her betrayal. I enjoyed Apechu, even though he weren't on the screen a lot. I enjoyed, like, he had basically orchestrated the entire game that we played, even though he was like behind the scenes. From the third game, I enjoyed Dr. M and his evilness and his connections to Sly's dad's gang. I enjoyed the hilarious ones and I enjoyed the more evil ones. Like, there are villains that I actually hated, but not because I was mad at the game, but because I was mad at the villain for being bad people. And I feel like when you can invoke that feeling in me, that's very good. And yes, I am talking about General Sao, who is often forgotten, but who is actually the villain who get my blood boiling the most. Like, that guy, that midway fight where we get to whack him is the best thing ever. That's the great thing about villains. Again, if you play as the hero and you get to fight them, it needs to be satisfying to defeat them. You need to feel like that little yes when you beat them in the ground, you know? You need to feel that. All my life just came out of me, like my entire soul just fled out of me, and that was because I remembered we're talking about Sly 4 again, sorry. The villains in this game range from forgettable to downright dumb. Like why do these exist kind of dumb. We have Fidel Castro as a villainous tiger. and I do not know why. It is the first time I have heard anything about them actually designing some of the villains after a real life person, and I'm not even sure that they actually said anything about it being a real life person, but it's just, I mean, it is. The entire thing with the small countries and the Cuban cigars and El Jefe, who is the villain's name, is literally a nickname that Fidel Castro had. The entire the thing about always being seen in a military uniform. I mean, there's just a lot of things. I do not know why. Toothpick had the potential to be a good villain, I feel like, if his character, like his character motive, weren't so shallow. Like, the whole lollipop thing is weird and dumb and shouldn't be, but he is at least a little unhinged. I mean, he literally murders a guy just.
Once we get that loot back into present day.
Aye! Toothpick! Going to be worth millions!
Oopsie.
I mean, that they added the weird feature that he can, like, he can grow bigger. Why can he grow bigger?
Oh, that hurts my ears! Who turned on that blasted whistle?
Why does no one tell me why he can go bigger? Why? I know it's alluded to, like, throughout the level that he can grow bigger, but he shouldn't be able to. He's an armadillo. Armadillos can't grow bigger when they're angry. What? I mean, it's fine that he has the characterization that he doesn't like whistles, whatever. That's, again, it could have been great if they had just tried not to make him as kid-friendly. And that's funny, because I just said that he murdered a guy on screen, but still he's just kind of, like, laughable. You know? But he pales. Oh my god, he pales in comparison to Gris, who, funny enough, is my least favorite villain in my least favorite level, also together with my least favorite ancestors. Can you feel how hard it is to get through that third level for me? It's just, like, the entire world is against me. Gris is a bad attempt of making Dimitri version 2. And I know you can say, oh, you can make someone like Dimitri, but no. They even have Dimitri in this game, and they don't use him at all, and I'm so frustrated, but that's another thought. We pin it over here. I don't know if we will turn to it. Gris is an artist who is misunderstood. Like, they don't get his art. But he still kinda has that flair for luxury. He thinks highly about himself. He talks in a strange way compared to the rest of the characters, and he rhymes and he sings songs a lot. Why is he Dimitri but done badly? I don't know. Gris is laughable attempt at a villain because he is done so shallowly. His plan is dumb. His plan is fucking dumb. His plan is dumb. He pisses me off to no end. But I guess he's a genius because he somehow managed to find cell connection in the Ice Age, and that's probably more than I would be able to do. So, you know, I guess that one's on me. The Black Knight is the Black Knight, and if you haven't played the game before, there's gonna be spoilers, and now you already know there are spoilers here, now you already know there is something, and I'm going to say that later on. I'm gonna take that, I'm gonna also pin that right here. That's another pin, okay? fuck was her name? Decibel. Decibel is another villain I can see potential in. Only because of the fact that she's in love with Paradox. Cause, God, I had hoped that she would play some kind of role in the end. I had just seen Paradox step all over her, like in the very last, like, simultaneously we beat her in a boss battle and Paradox is up in his blimp and he's also like stamping on her. I had just thought she somehow would get some kind of revenge in the end. I thought, okay, the game is gonna surprise me now. It didn't. That's the theme for this video. I thought I was wrong. That's what the video should be called, okay? I'm sorry for having hopes and dreams. I mean, she's not the first music character, and I guess I'll be a little bit more large with this one, because that can be a lot. Just because we had Octavio doesn't mean we can't have another music villain. But I really do feel like, again, as with many of the other characters, we don't really get any close to her, especially her actually, because when we usually trail the villains to learn something, we also usually get a bit of their personality, you know. When we trail Decibel, Paradox is also there, so the spotlight is shared in that moment, and everything Decibel says, she says because Paradox is there. So her personality, she loves classical music, she doesn't like other kinds of music, she likes Paradox. Two of those are music related. That's not enough. That's not enough for me. I like layers. Like an onion. So many layers. I like layers in my villains. I enjoy gameplay, but for me, personally, I really enjoy story and I enjoy characters. And this is a character-driven series. I feel like I'm not I don't feel like I'm asking too much, but I am apparently, because every single villain in this game let me down, and now we get to it. Now we get to the big one. Are you ready? Are you seated? I am seated. The Black Knight is actually Penelope. Penelope, Penelope, Penelope. You know what? I like Penelope. As many others, I grew up with the other games. I especially grew up with the third game. That was actually the first one I played. I was 8 years old when the first one came out in 2005. I loved that game so much, and I thought Penelope was such an enjoyable character. I like the whole little twist. We get a villain, but it's actually this other character we've been talking to for the entire level, and they are actually nice now, and they go with us on our adventure. And there's also a love interest for my favorite boy, who's Bentley, whom I love. I like Penelope, especially as a woman or a girl when I first played this game, because she's smart. She is as smart as Bentley. And she's badass, and she learns how to swing swords in the pirate level, and she was cool. She was someone that you could say, okay, you can still be smart and badass at the same time. And she was one of the only female characters in the game, and she was someone you could look up to. I was the little nerdy girl, you know, in school, and that's and it's cool to have a character like that. She's close to my heart. And then we get this game, where she's torn away from me. She's torn away from me, and I feel like an abandoned mother. They decided, and I can't, again, have my theories. I think that Sansu game, again, wanted to do something that had never been done before. We've never had someone on our team actually turn evil. The only thing is, that the way they did it doesn't make any sense, and I'm very angry. Because, okay, for those of you who don't know, Penelope started working together with Bentley. The last time we saw them, they were working on the Cooper Vault, and now they were just working on a lot of things. Time travel was one of the things. They were working on a lot of things. And then one day she disappeared. Poof! And Bentley was worried, as one is. But then the whole kind of the history disappears thing happened, and he kind of had to push the back of his mind because, again, Penelope's a badass. She can probably take care of herself. But then we meet up with Penelope again, and now she has apparently decided inside of her head that Sly's philosophy of being a thief and stealing from other thieves is apparently bad. That him and his moral compass and his code of honor and whatever it is that she blabbles about is holding Bentley back, because together the two of them with their brilliance could make weapons and sell them to the highest bidder. Do I have to say that this woman has never ever had an interest in weapons before? So now apparently she thinks that Sly is bad. And she also degrades Bentley for trusting him.
Poor Bentley. He's kinda cute when he's being dumb.
For listening to his lifelong friend. Okay, of course she can have her opinions, right? Right. The funny thing is that she didn't have those opinions in the third game. At any point, you can take a character and you can develop them in any direction that you want. And that is fine. That for me is okay. As long as you do it on screen. Because if the entire character development happens off screen, then it feels lazy and out of character. And that is exactly what we got here. They needed a surprise villain. They needed something to spice up that good old time travel games. And you know what? They decided that character, we can make that one go a full 180 and just be like, you know I had morals and standards and opinions before, but you know what? I guess some time happened in between these two games, and a lot of things can happen in time. I just wish there had been some kind of build-up that we could have been able to follow. Like, maybe she shouldn't have disappeared in the start of the game. Maybe she should have stayed. She could have still betrayed them in the beginning. She could still have given Paradox, this is also spoilers, she could still have given Paradox the plans for the time travel. Fine, but she could have done it under Bentley's nose, and she could still have stayed, and then we could have had some contact with her, and then throughout the first 3 levels we could have gotten more and more hints that things Sly did and said that they should do, she would think were stupid. She didn't necessarily have to time travel with them. She could have just sometimes been over the intercom or something. They could have called her. And then in the end she could have been like, fuck this, and then disappeared at some point, maybe in the Ice Age level or something. Then they wouldn't have been able to contact her all of a sudden. And then maybe her level should have been in the end. I don't know. I just feel like you can't just make that big of a character development. I don't even know if I could call it character development. I want to call it character murder off screen. You can't do that. And then we have the boss fight with her, and of course we win. And then Bentley has this, kind of enlightening moment of like, oh, now I'm more independent than I was before, and now I'm more confident in myself. And that would have been so great if he hadn't already gone that through that character development, like the exact same one in the second game when Contessa takes Sly and Murray, like she captures Sly and Murray, and Bentley have to suddenly be on his own and build up a lot of confidence. I mean, that's where he gets most of the confidence, and then he gets a bit of confidence boost again in the third game when he learns that he can still be a lot of help for the gang, even with his newfound disability, because he turns it around. Like, he shows his true strength like that. That is... You can't just ignore that and then say, oh, look at this brilliant character development he went through, and it has already been done. I am so tired. But I think I still feel like the biggest offender in this entire game is actually the main villain himself. And that's saying something, because usually the main villain is like the one that has the most going for them. I mean, he's up against Clockwork. Paradox, he's a shallow villain with a stupid plan, and he poses not nearly enough of a threat to be considered the big villain of the game. Let's talk about Paradox's plan for a moment, okay? Paradox's plan was to erase the Coopers from existence. Gee, I wonder where I've heard that before. He's just bland. He's bland. And the funny thing is, the Sly even points it out himself. Like, Paradox hasn't even done anything in this game. Like, sure, he orchestrated it all, but he hasn't done anything. And the funny thing is, you can actually draw parallels from the Paradox and to Apetio from the second game, who is one of my favorite characters. Apetio also weren't on screen a lot. He didn't even have a boss battle, and I cry every day, but that is another story. Apetio was the brain of the operation. Apetio orchestrated the entire plot to get into motion. You can kind of see the similarity between the Paradox here, right? But then the big thing is, if Sly 2 were able to get away with this, then why weren't Sly 4? And that's where the main difference comes in. Because Sly 2 didn't try to make Apetio the main big villain. That was Clockla. That was Neela turned Clockla. That was who we had the big boss battle with. That was who we had the big betrayal, who were also actually a part of the plan all along, we learn. So she's actually been a part of the plan all along. Then she makes this big betrayal, gets super powerful and strong. She's menacingly in the final level the entire time, and then we have a huge boss battle with her. That's the key difference. Sly 2 didn't try to paint Apetio as the main villain of the story, like the main boss of the story, because he wasn't. He was only the leader. He hadn't done anything. He just feels bland, and he feels like his motivation is something we've heard before, like, oh no, the Cooper clan were better than me. The Paradox is trying so hard and failing even harder to be Clockwork, and it's painful to look at. It is painful. His plan is basically that one meme that was popular probably a year ago. I'm old. I don't keep up with stuff like this, but it was basically like step 1, time travel. Step 2, step 3, profit, and that was his plan. Okay, that was his entire plan. I mean, I guess you could say there was also the kind of like he wanted to rewrite history so he'd become rich and famous, blah, but you know that's not what this is about. if it was all about that, he could have just stolen a bit more stuff. He was already kind of up there. He was on his way. He ruined it for himself. It was about pity. It was about revenge. It was a pity revenge. I mean, I guess you could say that Clockwork didn't have the most elaborate plan either, but at least there was something menacing about him. Like, he has been keeping himself alive for thousands of years. He has broken his body down and he has replaced it with metal, and he has a metal heart and metal lungs, and everything is just so uncanny and kind of gross, actually. And the paradox, he's just kind of, he's a skunk. Like, literally the running gag is that the other characters make fun of him, that he stinks because he's a skunk.
Oh, you think I'm scared of you? Only thing scary about you is the smell. The paradox is a stinking dude, and I'm getting real sick of his attitude.
And where is that stinking the paradox when I need his help?
How can I put this? It stinks worse than I do!
I just kind of feel like when all the other characters make fun of the big bad boss we're supposed to fight in the end, he just kind of does not feel very menacing, does he? There's no anticipation. It's just like, I'm just sitting in the end like, yeah, where's that fucking skunk who stinks? He's just rich. That's his character. He wants revenge. He's rich. He wants to be more rich. He's a skunk. And to top it all off, like, the icing on the cakes for this one is his absolute insult of a boss battle. Like, I felt like the game was laughing at me while I played this boss battle. Because throughout the entire boss battle, I am told what to do. It's a quick time event, and it's not even very quick. How is it even possible to make the final boss battle, for Christ's sake? How is it possible that you make that the easiest one? The one you can't possibly die in, because the game tells you what to press. The first time I played that boss battle, my mouth was ajar out of shock that this was what the entire game had built up to. This was my reward for going through all of that. This was when I had to prove that I could do this game. And I don't want anyone to say, oh, there's also the part with the answers, the blah. That was such a short part. I was actually kind of mortified when I played it through again for this video that it was so short. I know this is a children's game. I've said that multiple times. I know this is a children's game. But I don't know why you expect people or children to have come this far in the game without help if you feel like they can't even press a button without you telling them which one it is. Other small things I'm mad about this game. The hacking, what is that? I don't know what it's called. It's probably called something fancy. It's move your controller and you move a thing in the game. And I guess it's kind of like, ooh, see what we can do. But here's the thing. Just because you're able to do something doesn't mean you necessarily have to do the thing. It's kind of like in the third game where you had the 3D glasses that didn't work. Give me a second. You had the dumb 3D glasses that didn't work, right? But you know what the great thing was? The great thing was that when you went in and you discovered, hey, this doesn't fucking work, they gave you a little option. Hey, do you want to take these hideous things off and just do the mission without them. And you know what? I always pressed the triangle button and said, no, I don't want to have them on. I don't want to deal with this. And you know what? The game was like, we got you, fam. You don't need these. That's all I wanted. That's all I wanted for that hacking game. There's like, do you want to do this or do you just want to control it? I'm just like, I just want to control it, please. I wouldn't get that. And yeah, these are my original ones from 2005, and they have suffered throughout the years, as you can see, but they are still in great condition, and that's probably because I never used them, because the 3D didn't work. And a final thing before I come to the conclusion. I don't know if you know this, but there is, in every single level, you can get an Easter egg where if you look at some point in the level, you can see a little owl. It's not a little. You can see a big owl, a middle owl, just sitting somewhere way out of reach, and he's just kind of looking. And that's Clockwork, and that's like, ooh, that's a little spooky, you know? Except for the fact that they made an Ice Age level, which completely fucks up that continuity, because that either means that I should count these as an Easter egg and not be mad about I will say that's an A. That's probably what I'm supposed to do, but I'm not doing that, so I'm gonna say B. I'm gonna say B. Clockwork is not actually from ancient Egypt, as we've all thought before, because we know that he knew Slaytagamon the First. So he's not from that era, or any era around there. He's actually from 10,000 BC, where animals weren't really evolved yet. You can see where the raccoon is in that stage, and there are still dinosaurs flapping around. Or B, no, that was BC. Clockwork also has a time machine. But that also doesn't make sense, because if he has a time machine, why doesn't he just fly back in time with his little time machine and kill all the fucking ancestors? And he probably has. Like, I have this morbid headcanon that a lot of Sly's ancestors actually have been killed by Clockwork. It's just that they have been able to hide away for so long that they have managed to, like, have children and teach their stuff. I feel like some of them met their demise by Clockwork's claws later in life, but none of this would make sense if he had a time machine, because then he could just So I guess I should just take it as an Easter egg, but it's just very nice to know that everything is fucked up now, and they had to change the Wikia because of this now, so it now says that he's like 10,000 BC years old, and I really don't think he is. I mean, it was cool to have like something Clockwork, that was a thing we all hoped we would see. We would see some kind of kind of Clockwork in the making, like maybe he was half, because I like the headcanon that he didn't change all of his body parts at once, like it kind of came over time, a wing here and a lung here, as things started to die and rot on him. He replaced it, so we were kind of seeing like a half in the making Clockwork. Of course we didn't get that. We also didn't get anything about Sly's parents, or his father at least. Thank you for nothing. Okay. That was my wrap up. Should you play this game if you're a Sly fan? Sure, you can play it. You can play it because of the mechanics. You can play it because it will remind you of the other games. And you get somewhat of a continuation. I'm not saying it's a good continuation, but you get it somewhere. Oh yeah, that reminds me. We also get the bullshit ending with Sly ending up in Egypt. And I want to say ancient Egypt because people theorized it was ancient Egypt because he fell in the time machine. But if you think about it, we only kind of see the pyramids and they're still there today, so it could just be Egypt. Who knows? He's lost forever, so you get a bullshit ending and you get no real character development. You actually ruin some characters and you do not really get any interesting villains if that's your thing. So play it for the mechanics. Play it to find those bullshit bottles. That's also in the second game. I am one of the people who were happy they got rid of that in the third game, because what was that? What the fuck? Of course they're optional. You can ignore them. I ignore them. It has dumb mini games I didn't play. I mourn those hours I played through the game again to be reminded of all the stuff that I didn't like, because the world needed this video, or maybe I just needed the world to hear me rant. I mean, I had a draft of this made in like 2015 or something. This has been on my chest for a long, long time. And now it's finally out. The curse has finally been broken. But yeah, that's it. No more. No more pain. No more suffering. We can all go home now. I'll leave you with this and just play better games. Just play better games. Goodbye.